During day one of tumbling, I go over a variety of dynamic movements that students can perform on a gymnastic mat. I start out with easier movements that students will be successful at, and they get harder as I go through the PowerPoint presentation. The main rules during dynamic tumbling is that only one student can be on the mat at a time, unless we are working on leapfrog or wheelbarrow. Students must walk back to their line once they get off the mat. Students can only do movements that we have reviewed and are allowed to do any movements that they have already seen. I spend more time with the first 7 movements with the younger students and a little bit more time with the different types of rolls and cartwheels with the older students. Here are the first 7 movements. There will be a separate video for the different types of rolls and cartwheels and more advanced movements. A pencil roll is when a student lays down with their hands above their head and tries to roll down the mat while keeping their body in control. If a student rolls off the mat, I tell them just to get back on the mat and to continue to roll until they get to the end. I challenge students to be able to roll down the entire mat without rolling off the mat. An egg roll is where the student is in a ball, wrapping their arms around their legs, holding their hands together. The goal is to not crack the egg by rolling down the mat while still holding your hands together. If a student's hands come undone when rolling, then we say the egg was cracked. My challenge is for students to be able to roll down the entire mat without cracking the egg. A crab walk is when a student sits on their bottom and then lifts their bottom off the ground, holding their body up with their hands and feet. Students must try to crab walk forward, backward, or sideways down the mat without touching their bottoms on the mat. A bear crawl is when a student is moving down a mat using their hands and feet. Students need to try to keep their bottom down when performing the skill. Students can perform a bear crawl forward, backward, and sideways when they practice this. An army crawl is when a student lays down on their belly and pretends they can't use their feet. Students need to try to use their hands and forearms to pull themselves down the mat. A seal walk is very similar to the army crawl. Students will start on their bellies and pretend they can't use their feet. Students need to try to use just their hands to pull themselves down the mat when they do a seal walk. Knee walking is where a student gets on their knees, grabs their shoes, and tries to walk down the mat on their knees. If this is easy for students, I'll have them try to do this backwards.